Cheers.
Cool. We good to go?
Yeah.
All right, brilliant. All right, cool. So yeah, Andrew Ward from ABB's Smart Buildings Specification Team, and I work with consultants, architects, end users and installers like yourselves to get our products written into your specifications. Very happy to have you here this afternoon. I appreciate it can have a knock on your day. I'm sure one of you here this afternoon will have someone WhatsApping them or buzzing them, so I do get it. I was a system integrator myself for 15 years before I joined ABB. So I was running a fleet of vans and a team of guys. So yeah, really appreciate having you guys in this afternoon. So the smart buildings offering. So ABB's really quite well known for the distribution boards and the switchgear and a lot of that stuff. We're very popular or very big in that market space. But my team looks after smart buildings. So it's quite a broad ranging product set, going from wiring accessories, socket outlets and data outlets, right up to a building management system, energy monitoring systems, and also home automation as well. So there's definitely a crossover there between the residential and the commercial sectors. So I'm going to kick off with a number, 1.8 million. This relates to a day at ABB. Anyone imagine what that could relate to in ABB? It's product. That's the amount of products that we ship in a day at ABB. 1.8 million products. And we do that from not a single site, 174 sites across the globe. So we really are a manufacturing giant. That's 110,000 people, 1.8 million products. So looking at sustainability, a company that size has a responsibility to try and drive down its energy consumption and its energy costs. But at the same time, we manufacture products that ultimately enable a low carbon society. So how do we reduce our emissions? One way we do this is we install metering and building automation systems into our own manufacturing sites. This one here is Stonehouse, about 50 years old. We use this as a case study. Our smart metering, which I'll show you in today's presentation. After a 6-month period of having this system bedded in, we collected all the data, and some of the things we found was like some silly stuff. The hot water heater was just left on permanent. It had a timer. No one had ever set that timer up. So there's a device there that's just chewing up power, 24/7, and it doesn't need to be running for that time. The canteen was running up until 8 or 9 p.m. every day, and they realised I only used it up until 3 p.m. So we saved 5 hours energy usage per day. But the one that really caught me was the large calibration pump operations. This on the factory floor. This is a piece of machinery, and this graph represents a day's usage of this particular piece of machinery. And what we noticed was the pumps were running differently between the day and the night shift. So this is a single day, 6th of December 2023, 1,257 kilowatt hours of usage in a single day. So that's a fairly high consumer. And that came in, you can't see that figure just there, maybe it's 375 quid. For a day's energy usage. So whatever that was doing must be quite high value. But you can see the pattern of usage is different. There's a lot more peaks and troughs in the morning shift, and in the afternoon evening shift is fairly solid. What's going on here is the day shift operator uses the machinery as it's intended, which is a variable speed drive. So he's just changing the amount of power that he needs to achieve the result. The night shift operator just ran it at 100% and used a bypass valve to create the desired flow. So he was doing it mechanically, and apparently it was the way that he was trained. So through having this data, we were able to go to those guys and say, look, we need to optimize your energy usage. And it amounted to a saving of 500 kilowatt hours per day by re-educating the night shift operator to use this piece of machinery as the day operator did. And I calculated that as most factories will do about 280, 300 days a year. Some do more, but at 20 pence per kilowatt hour, that's a huge saving of almost £45,000. So can you imagine the money that could be saved across 174 manufacturing sites across the world? So my point here is there are huge opportunities in metering. This is very much at an industrial level, but some of your clients will have high energy bills. You know, be they a homeowner or an office building, or maybe a company that's got a portfolio of properties, whether that's in retail or schools, local authorities, whoever that is. And if you can show them these savings, you can justify the money they need to spend on one of these systems. So let's have a little look at what we'll talk through today. So we're going to look at the need for metering. We're going to touch on some products, some DIN rail meters, some power meters. Then we'll look at Insight Energy Management System. So this is the digital solution that I want to show you. And then we'll have a look at a case study at the end. So a little bit of jargon busting. I might mention MID approved a couple of times. I'm not sure if any of you are working in the MID space. These are meters that are certified for billing purposes. So a landlord could generate a bill from an MID certified meter. We'll touch on some communication protocols. These are really big for us because a communication protocol allows you to attach a meter to a digital solution or a building management system, for example. So might touch on Modbus RTU, which is a serial communication protocol, and MBus, which is just a communication protocol for meters in general. And there could be several types of utilities that could be picked up with MBus. And the main device that I'm going to talk about, SCU200, you access that via a web UI. That's a web user interface. So simply typing in an IP address to access a device on your network. So the need for metering. So our industry is being driven by standards, legislation and accreditation, and also companies' own directives to improve their sustainability criteria. So there's a couple of big ones out there. There's BREEAM, there's Neighbours. You might see this coming into specifications moving forwards, but the ultimate aim being to create more sustainable buildings. BREEAM is very much focused on the design stage of a building. It's all about specification, whereas Neighbours is more about how the building performs once it's occupied. And if you've got a smart metering system in a Neighbours certified building, every year it needs to resubmit its data to see how it's performing, or if it's if the building's degrading over time, or if it's becoming less energy efficient. You can then go back to that building and have a look at your metering strategy. So sustainability accreditation is really driving our industry in metering. So looking at some of the hardware, you might be familiar with some of these devices, and these are product sets that have been around for many years from ABB. So we have a range of direct connected and transformer connected single phase and three phase meters, and this is kind of the backbone of any metering system. Traditionally these were simple kilowatt hour meters, but they've become a lot more advanced as time has moved on. The B series features direct connected meters up to 65 amps, and over and above that you would use a CT or a current transformer for your higher ratings. These can talk Modbus RTU for integration with BMS and EMS, and there is also an MID approved version of this for billing. The A series comes in at direct connected up to 80 amps, so slightly higher rating there, and your CTs over and above that. You've got the Modbus RTU integration and or MBus. You also can do the MID approved version of this for billing. And last one there, so maybe slightly more advanced features with this in that you can get into harmonics as well, and you can do different types of tariffs. You can do event logs. Some of these will have a resettable register. So typically when a meter goes in, it just starts measuring, and that's it for life. But some of them can now be reset. So for example, if you've got a new tenant in a building, the meter can be reset as that person comes in. Our latest range is the D series, which is an amalgamation of both the A and the B series, just to reduce on the number of part codes that we're working with. Currently this is a single phase variant up to 40 amps, and the D13 is a three phase variant up to 65, and this has got all of the communication protocols embedded into it. This is a much more sustainable product in that it's smaller, so it's using less materials. It's using more recycled materials. I think it's 70% recycled plastic, and it's plastic free. I think all of our products moving forwards, the packaging is plastic free, and the paper and the cardboard is FSC certified, so a much more sustainable product. So aside from the DIN rail meters, we've got our panel meters. These are typically found in commercial and industrial applications. I'm not sure if anyone works with panel boards, but if they are being metered, you'll find one of these network analyzers attached to them. The embedded communication protocols are there. There's very much a need now for integration with the BMS or the EMS. These are no longer standalone solutions. And typically, if you're using the Modbus TCP version of these, they would be a home run back to a network switch, which ultimately creates quite large switching requirements. These are now our latest range. Can daisy chain, so they've got 2 RJ45 switching ports built into them, so you can just daisy chain them along. One caveat there is that if you are using the MID approved version of these, they do need to run back to a switch in a home run. That's part of the MID accreditation. We can do a comparison chart with the competition. So we do find that the PM5111 is really popular in our marketplace. So we've got an equivalent product. If you are working on specification, you can submit that to us, and we'll come back to you with the right part codes. And it's worth noting that every model has a single communication protocol embedded. So there would be a Modbus variant or a BACnet variant. So again, if you're working on spec, you can submit that to us or the guys at Phase, and they'll come back to you with the correct parts. And the last thing to note on this one is there's a Bluetooth app. So as well as reading the data from the front of the device or from your BMS, if you've got service guys on the factory floor or the shop floor, they can connect to these via Bluetooth. They can configure them, they can get alerts and notifications from them, and also just pick up the readings of the energy consumption for that particular device.
Can you set that up as an installer and then hand over?
You can, yeah, absolutely. And I think you can pin protect it. You can do different types of admin rights. So you could have an engineer that can configure it. Then you can have like an FM that can just monitor it. So there's different layers of access that you can give. Yeah, good question. Nice. Yeah. So that's a brief look at some of the nuts and bolts of the metering world. The main hardware that we use. So now I'll move on to Insight, or we used to call this CMS, which is the circuit monitoring system. But I think that actually limits it a little bit because it's a lot more than a circuit monitoring system. But typically, this is how it looks. You've got a control unit, MCBs, and you've got some sensors there. But it can be opened up to do a lot more. But at its very core, we've got the CMS sensors to allow AC and DC branch monitoring. You have a flat cable and some connectors. This allows you to connect all of the data. All of that data of your consumption comes back to this data logger or this control unit, and via the built-in web server, you've got access to the dashboard. And then that dashboard there is showing you the consumption of all of these devices, and it looks something like that. The dashboard is freely configurable with widgets. You just grab a widget, drop it onto the screen, and you can look at instantaneous values. You can look at total power consumption. You could look at consumption from a single device or groups of devices. Maybe if you've got a lot of, let's say, fan coil units, for example, you have all of your fan coil units in a single widget. You could have all of your sockets and then all of your lighting. You can split this up, or you could just group it as a total consumption for the entire property. So it's designed mostly for commercial buildings, but there are applications in the residential world, especially if you've got someone with a large property, high consumers, they don't know where they're spending their money. This is a good application. This is really big in data centers. They're obviously very energy hungry environments, and it also goes into the industrial sector and unmanned substations. It's going to give you real-time and historical data analytics. You can make savings of up to 20%, but we say to a lot of our customers, even a 10-15% saving on your current bill. And if you think about the commercial world, energy costs are high. So there's a lot of demand for this sort of product set out there. And the main thing being visualization of your key data from your distribution boards. So let's have a look at the range. The system's been around for a fair while. We first launched it in 2008. The CMS 600 and 700 are now obsolete, and we're running with SCU 100, and this is the latest unit, SCU 200, and you can see the form factors got a lot smaller. So the difference between the two is SCU 100 is very much the all-in-one commercial, large commercial solution. It can give you 3 times 32 Insight bus ports. So that's up to 96 sensors or 96 MCBs you can pick up data from. It's got a Modbus RTU port. It's mains powered and has a 3-phase meter built into it. So you can pick up the metering from your incoming supply as well on this device. SCU 200 is now a modular system, 24 volt DC power supply. If you haven't got 24 volts in your BMS panel or your distribution board, there's an expansion module. There's a separate power supply that will come with that. But we recognise that definitely in BMS panels, there's quite often a 24 volt supply there, so it's going to save you the cost of a device. And as for outgoing ways, this can do 32 connections, as well as the Modbus RTU, Modbus TCP. That's really useful if you're talking to a building management system. And in terms of retrofit, if you can't get a Cat6 or a network cable into your distribution board, this has got Wi-Fi built into it. So there's 2 ways to use that. You can use the Wi-Fi just to connect your laptop to configure the device, but you can also attach this device to the site's Wi-Fi, so it's now got network access. Doesn't need to be hardwired. In terms of the sensors, there's several variants. Obviously, we want you to use the ABB variant and buy our switchgear, and it clips on top nicely, looks all really nice and neat. That looks great. But we're very much third-party friendly, especially in the retrofit world. We don't need to work with an ABB dist board. This can go into anyone's dist boards, and we just do a cable tie variant. So it's the sensor there that goes over the load. You can see the ribbon cable which is coming back to the control unit. So there's a cable tie variant, and there's also a DIN rail version as well. And over and above that, I don't know if you can see this, but that there is an open core sensor, and we also do a closed core version as well. So if you're retrofitting in fact, here's one that I made earlier. I'll pass that around, you can have a little look. So you can see the open core version is just going to slide over the load. As if you're doing a new build, you could use the closed core variant because you're building your panels from scratch, you know. And then just looking at some of the ratings of the sensors, they come from a 20 amp up to 160, but we find for most applications between 20 and 80 amps covers most bases. But if you do need to go up to 160, we have got a variant there. The ribbon cable is nice and easy to install. So you've got your flat cable, you've got your connector sets. They come in a bag of 35, and you just need a pair of long nose pliers just to clip these on. No special tooling, no special procedures. You can fix the connectors anywhere along the cable. Although the more connectors you use, the more you shorten the maximum permissible length of that cable. But when you get to the specification stage, we can forward you this table so the guys know exactly what they're doing. But the ribbon cable comes in, I think it's 5 meters up to 30 meter lengths. So in terms of putting a bill of materials together, it's quite simple in essence. You just need to pick a control unit, SCU 100 or 200. You decide if you want to pick up the main incoming supply, and if so, you'll need an expansion module for that. You pick the length of your ribbon cable, 5 meters to 30 meters, a bag of connectors, and then lastly, it's choosing the rating of the sensor that you want to use, and whether that will be open core or closed. And we can send you an example part list so you can build a bill of materials from that as well. So very simple in essence how you put it together. Here's an image of it in situ. I think this is showing the competitors' MCBs, but you can see the sensors there on these loads, and the ribbon cable there looped between the two. You don't need to pull it super tight. If you leave a little ribbon, I think they've done it here actually. You can see the loops there, so that's just giving you a bit of access for maintenance if you've got to remove them or work on them in some way. So you can see the sensors attached to the load. These are all three-phase, obviously, and within the software, those three sensors would be grouped to indicate a three-phase device. Here we've got our CTs, and these could be third-party CTs connected to the incoming supply, and all of that cabling runs back to an expansion panel or expansion box beside this board. And you can see it housed just there. So that's SCU 100. I don't think this particular customer wanted to see a display on the front of the board, so they didn't have to open up the panel or access the software, just to see some simple data whenever they went to this panel. We have a panel building service that comes out of our Coles Hill facility. So if you are working on panel boards or large projects, I'm sure a lot of you guys build your own panels, but that is a service that we provide. So we can have this built, pre-populated, cabled and shipped to you. And I believe we can even do the initial configuration of the control unit as well before it gets shipped out to you. And that's just another example there. I think a key one to note here is that on this vertical board here, you've got the expansion box. That's typically how we do it for most scenarios, is you've got a little expansion box there above your main board for the energy management. So once that's all been put together, your system architecture for a simple system could look something like this. So you've got your three-phase supply coming in from your sub distribution, coming down to your final distribution level. There's your SCU 200 connected to your network, and here's the insight bus with the sensors just connected to all of your protection devices. And as the symbols say there, it could be for power, a couple could be assigned to lighting, some of them could be assigned to the HVAC. And so that device there is giving you a reading of each particular subsystem. And then once we've got a basic system architecture in place, and it's worth noting actually, just nipping back slightly, that all of this is a one-time cost. There are no license fees or subscriptions attached to this, but it's very much an on-premise solution. If you want to bring this up to the cloud, you've got the Modbus TCP IP integration, which allows you to attach it first of all to your network, and over and above that you could then bring it up to the BMS level. Your BMS might have some sort of remote access or cloud service attached to it, so you don't need to buy that twice. We also have our own cloud platform, or you could bring it into someone else's cloud via Modbus TCP IP. So very flexible on what we can do at cloud level or remote access. So I think that's it. I'm gonna wrap up there. So before I finish up, are there any questions?
No, it looks pretty good. It's pretty nice.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Have you
Cheers.
got a rep that come out and meet me on site?
Definitely.
Yeah?
Yep.
Well, I might have something then.
And we're very proactive in that sense. We've got guys nationally. How many people in your team, Darren?
There's 6 in my team, so predominantly wholesale and contracting. We've then got another team which covers the industrial type partners. We've got a panel builder team who will liaise with panel builders. So if you've got panel boards, they'll liaise with them, make sure they've got the bill of materials right for the panel builders. And then we have a projects team as well. So we've got a projects team who cover major projects, but tied in with them is a specification team. So they will talk to consultants or some of the larger contractors.
And that's my lot. There's 11 of us, so there's plenty of us, and we're happy to go and do site visits with your customers. Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, and if you got to the point where you wanted to specify this or use this, we've got demo boxes that we could bring to your facility. We could bring one here. We could do like a training morning, just show people how to access that web server. Because if that's something that's new to you or something you're not doing on a day-to-day basis, just to get you familiar with accessing the web server, configuring dashboard, populating all the devices. There's a simple procedure just to bring those devices into the software, and then you'll be up and running. But yeah, we're happy to support.
A couple of clients that could probably benefit from that. So.
Yeah. The last job I did before I joined ABB, they had 3 boilers, one for the hot water, one for the heating, and one for the pool. And I think when they first delivered this place, it was like £2,000 a month on the energy bills, but we didn't know how to pinpoint. I mean, I'm sure it was the swimming pool. That was just running 24/7, that thing, and they kept the air temperature at 28 degrees. So there was a whole HVAC system down there monitoring the humidity and just keeping this place subtropical. There was such a huge cost, and the owners weren't impressed. But they didn't know, they didn't know where it was being spent, and so metering would have really, got everyone out of trouble. So there's some real good applications for this. Yeah. All right, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, so as Andrew's alluded to, I'm Darren from ABB, by the way. We work for the electrification business area. So ABB being a multinational, we've got lots of different divisions. We do anything from obviously the sub-distribution to motor control, variable speed drives, motors, to turbochargers for the marine industry and the rail industry. There's so many different divisions, but ours is predominantly electrification. So what I'm going to talk about today is our sub-distribution offering, which you can see our 3-phase sort of sample boards here. Just a bit of a backstory and how we've come to where we are, and then just some of the product ranges that we've got and how they may be able to sort of benefit yourselves. So ABB has had a offering for many years. Originally it was a Dorner Smith ABB collaboration. From what I've been told, they manufactured the metalwork, the boards, we manufactured the devices, so it was very similar. So we had our bit under ABB, they had their bit under Dorner Smith, but it was very much a similar sort of product. Then we decided to release our own. It was called Protector. It was about 15 years old and it needed updating, which is what we did back in 2018. So we went into market for feedbacks, sort of tried to get an understanding of where the market was going, what we needed to do to bring our product in line with the competition and the market moving forward. And we've actually come up with Protector Plus. So as I say, released this in 2018, and we've had end of success with it since. So it's a good product, and I'll go over some of the features of what we've got. So as you can see here, you all know what 3-phase board is. Ours, against the competition, is at 250 amp rated boards as standard. So it's 250 amp rated, 35 kA buzz bar. So one of the highest prospective fault current rate buzz bars in the industry at the moment. I'll go into a little bit from this screen, and then it'll probably sort of other slides will go back to probably what I've already explained. But previously we could only do 3-phase incomers, so 3-pole. Now we've got the option of 3-pole and 4-pole incomers. Let's say up to 250 amps. So you've got 100 amp, 125 amp switch disconnector, 160 amp MCCB, and 250 amp MCCB in 3 or 4-pole configuration. Any of them will fit directly into the board. There's no need for any extension boxes or anything. In the MCCB incomers, we also offer them as protected devices if needed as well. But one of the key features is the metering and surge protection will fit directly into the board. So again, no need for extension boxes. So if you went and installed this into one of your installations, you don't necessarily want metering, don't want surge protection now, you can install that at a later date. Let's say 250 amp, 35 kA, from 4-way up to 24-way standard, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20 and 24. On any of the outgoing circuits, you use an 80 amp MCB. So again, not something that's particularly common within what our competitors do. And on that picture The first three phases at the bottom, you can actually use a 100 amp MCB. So your option there, 80 amp on any of them, 100 amp on those bottom three phases. Again, if you wanted to do that with some of our competition, you're looking at a different type of board, long lead times, everything else. Bearing in mind this is a standard off-the-shelf sort of solution. We also have the option of horizontal split load boards. We haven't got one on display here, but you'll see from the vertical split load, which I'll go into a bit. This is our horizontal version. So if you've got low risers, they're quite wide, you've got the option of having a 24 and 24 split load board. So 24-way power, 24-way lighting. What we have noticed is that we're getting asked more and more for boards, lots of outgoing ways, but no metering. So we've actually used this bottom extension and we've just provided that with a 4-pole 250 amp incomer. So you could in theory have two 24-way boards, no metering, and you can just fit that to the wall. So we've just added that to the product list. But in terms of this, you'd get the horizontal split load board. You'd pick what size main distribution board you want. So you can have different configurations. You can have 24. You could have a 20-way board next to it if you wanted to, or a 4-way board if you like. But it comes with the CTs, the meters, everything else. So you pick the horizontal board, the size of the incomer, and then your two boards itself. And then as you can see over here, we obviously have a vertical split load option. Again, we've got fabrication, as Andrew's alluded to, up at our Coles Hill facility. So we get the carcass of these and then we mount this all ourselves within the distribution boards. But these are vertical split load power lighting boards. We've also got a power lighting and mechanical option as well. So depending on whether you want to monitor the mechanical side, you get 3 meters. But these will come pre-fitted with the incomer. So you decide which size incomer you want, whether you want 3 or 4 pole, whether you want 125, 160 or 250. But this will come installed with the incomer and the meters already pre-configured within that and tested. So you get a test certification sheet so that we've tested it before it leaves the warehouse. But bearing in mind, as I say, you've also got the mechanical side there. In theory, you can, I'll say in theory, we have done it many times before, you could put one of these vertical boards next to a standard board and use the vertical split load configuration as well. So it gives you more options in terms of power lighting and mechanical monitoring. So different configurations, 844, 1284, 250, 160 and 125 in the 3-way. The DBs themselves come with a standard latch, but there's a vast range of accessories you can add on. So you can make them lockable if you want, separate add-on components, but there's an option there to have lockable latches on there.
Would you offer like glazed doors or anything like that?
We have got, we don't get asked for them a lot, but we have got the option of a glazed door. So there's a vast range of accessories for the products. I won't go into all of them, but there are some catalogues for you to grab if you want to sort of have a look at the full range afterwards. But yeah, we have got glazed doors. They are available. We don't keep a lot of stock because we don't really get asked for them, but they are there as an option. To coincide with the distribution boards, we've also got, as I say, carrying on from the accessories, we've got side extension boxes. They will marry up to the size of board that you order. So if it's a 4-way board, you can have a 4-way side extension box, and they'll be obviously all aesthetically pleasing and marry up the same sort of side. But if you're doing AFDDs, separate metering, RCCBs, BMS, anything like that, obviously this is a sort of perfect add-on for those sort of installs. In terms of the MCBs that fit within these, our range is the S200 range. They obviously go up to 100 amp. Pretty much standard 10-15 kA. We do, however, have an S300 range. It used to be the S201P range. We've now got an S300 range, which is up to 25 kA. So if you've got highest predicted fault current, we do have a 25 kA option in an MCB frame size that will fit within the distribution boards. I mean, this is an old slide, so it kind of covers the S200 range, but it coincides with the re-release of the S300s. Our RCBOs, the DSC 201 range, they're up to 50 amp from this range. However, one of the key features on here is it's got this little window below the test button. If that trips out on earth leakage, it'll have a little blue screen ping up. So for fault finding, if you enter the board and the blue flag was there, you know that's tripped out on earth leakage. So it reduces obviously the amount of times you guys have got to spend fault finding. We have, however, released a triple pole RCBO. For those that you may or may not use them. It is 3 modules wide, fits directly into the distribution board. There's no VG units or anything like that. That is up to 63 amps. So if you've got commercial kitchens you're working on, ground source, air source, heat pumps, things like that, 3-phase circuits that require RCBOs, we've got that option there. Again, reduces the amount of size distribution boards. I know some of the competition, they use VG units. We have got a VG unit solution, but it doesn't fit within our distribution boards, so we've released this to kind of counteract that. But if you're using competitors, you're going to lose 6 ways by converting one of the MCBs into a VG unit. Just an example there of how they mount within the board. And an example in terms of the AFDDs. Are you guys getting asked much for AFDDs, or starting to do more and more of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, more and more.
Yeah, so from my understanding, there's no one who does a 10kA device at the moment. Correct me if I'm wrong. However, we have got a 10kA single module in the pipeline. It's probably going to be another year off, obviously with the change in the regs. I can't remember, obviously we're up to the 18th edition, but I can't remember what amendment we are now. It seems to... it keeps on chopping and changing.
Amendment 4.
Is it 3 or 4 now? Yeah. So obviously these are going to be becoming more and more common. I can eventually see the demise of the MCBs, and everything will be RCBO or AFDD eventually.
I think everything's going to go AFDD.
Yeah.
By the look of it.
But which is why we're throwing quite a bit of research and development into reducing the amount of space and reducing it down to a single module device. However, currently our solution on a 3-phase install would be to fit an RCBO in the distribution board and then feed that to an AFDD either in top or side extension box. We do 2 options in the AFDDs at the moment, a 2-module or 3-module. 2 modules are overcurrent short circuit MCB AFDD, or we do a 3-module which is RCBO AFDD. But obviously this can all be configured by yourselves. You can install these yourselves, or if you've got a project where there's a load of distribution boards, we can pre-assemble these for you with the incomers, the meters, the surge, everything already pre-built, traffic light labelling on the front, and then you've just got to bolt it to the wall. Just some examples there in terms of how they marry up against our side extension boxes, etc. One thing to mention is we do have fuse holders which will fit within these DBs as well. So we do quite a bit of work where they want a cartridge fuse. So if it blows, it can't just be flicked back on. So again, it's just the amount of accessories we have available are there. In terms of accessories, we tried to simplify it. So before, when we had the old protector range, it was a lot of components. There was loads of components. You had to, if you wanted a board, I'd quote you, and there'd be lots of individual components. So in terms of the incomer, you'd have a separate component list for the shroud. You'd have a separate component list for the incomer, and it was just very, very bitty. So we updated it. Now everything comes in kit form. So as you can see here, in terms of the surge protection, which we offer in Type 1 and 2, Type 2 or Type 2-3 combined, in both FURS and our ABB Soule. So we own FURS, which you'll probably know as a market leader, but we've got 2 options in FURS and Soule. But it comes in kit form, so it'll come with your surge protection device, your OCPD, the DIN rail and the wiring loom. Same with the metering kit. Comes with the CTs, the meter, the wiring loom and the DIN rail mount. As you can see from this picture here. In terms of our metering option, which Andrew has obviously given you a bit of an overview earlier, in our kit forms we've got an option for a single phase meter. So if you wanted a single phase, a 3-phase board, we've got an option for that. The actual kits will relate back to your size of income, so 125, 160, 250, as I've alluded to earlier. But the bit at the end, A, B or C, that relates to the type of comms that the device has got. So A is generally just pulse, B is pulse Modbus, and C would be pulse Modbus input output. So if you've got solar panels and you're feeding back to the grid, obviously you can do your feedback tariffs and things like that. The CMS, again, which Andrew's alluded to, just something to mention, we are in the process of having this MID approved, so this will be available for billing purposes from my understanding. So again, a benefit there, you'll have, rather than having individual direct connect meters, you can use this as a billing meter in the not too distant future. Again, this is the type of work we do from our fabrication. They're based up at Coles Hill, just around the corner from our warehouse. But we can do all the panel trunking and custom configurations, direct connection onto the actual buzz bar itself. And another thing to note, out of our fabrication, we can actually install 125 amp devices in top extension boxes, should you need that as well. So we've got a range which is the S800 range. They're up to 125 amp. But a larger frame size, so unfortunately they won't fit in the board, but we can put a range of 125 amp devices in the board as well. Then just some overview. Going back, as I said, we had Protector, we went to Protector Plus. We had a similar scenario with our panel board. So our old panel was R2 panel board. It was only up to 3B Type 2, Form 3B Type 2. Again, very old school. We need to update it. We released this at the end of 2024. So now we've got an offering on Form 3B Type 2, Form 4 Type 2 or Form 4 Type 6 group mounted. Up to 800 amp, 50 kA in 812 or 18 way configuration, which is a little bit deceiving in that it depends on the frame size of the MCCB outgoes. So if you went to a Form 4 Type 6, you're going to be using 4-pole devices. You won't fit 8 devices within, or you'll fit a number of devices within the 8-way, but it depends on the size of the current rating and everything else, because it's all based on the frame size of the actual MCCB. But obviously, wall or floor installation, we've got plimps, side cable ways, side metering ways, etc. Again, you can order these as a loose component, or we can pre-assemble them for you. Fully populated, and then you just literally will drop them off on a pallet, completed. All the accessories for it, plain side extension boxes for your cableways and metering extensions, top, bottom and corner boxes. One of the benefits we've got now is that all of our MCCBs for the Protector Power Panel Board are in a pluggable configuration. We now have that as an offering with a touch-proof buzz bar system there. As you can see from the devices, similar sort of design and layout. But we offer them in 25, 36 and 50 in single pole, triple pole, 4-pole devices, or there's the option of a separate neutral in thermal mag or electronic LS/I or LSI. We also have options for our ABB High Touch, which is an all singing, all dancing MCCB. We don't offer that within the catalogue, but it is there as an option where you can have embedded metering and everything else in there. Just some examples of fitting the actual devices. The old boards you used to have plug-in bases. You obviously have to slot the MCCB over and then tighten up to required torque settings. There's not that anymore. You literally slot the device in. It will slot onto the buzz bar and just tighten up the screws in the mounting plate. A lot quicker installation. This slide basically goes over the configurations of the boards, and depending on the type of MCCBs you've got, as I say, depending on the size of the MCBs will depend on the size of how many devices will fit within the board. We can see if you went for an XT5, they're 140mm wide compared to an XT4, so it's more for the amount of devices you've got rather than the amount of ways. Select some settings on the Thermo Mag, up to 125 amp in the single phase, 160 amp in the XT1 and the XT2, 250 amp in the XT4. But one of the main things for this panel board is we can now go up to a 630 amp outgoing way, which we never used to be able to on our old R2 panel board. The maximum was 250 amp. And then with the electronic devices, again, up maximum up to 160 amp, 630 amp, and up to the XT2 160 amp. Obviously, the single phase devices we don't offer in electronic. There's not enough sort of space within the device itself to make that electronic, but you've got it in your three phase devices anyway. Incoming and outgoing options, again in kit form. As I say, we're more than happy to pre-assemble these and drop them off to you if required. All of our meters are the M4M meters, so it allows you for power, current, voltage, power factor, etc. The same with the incoming metering. Do any of you do transfer switches, automatic transfer switches? Get asked for them? No. Okay, I won't cover much on this then. It would just be kind of an overview of what we do. Obviously, there's we comply to 60947 standards. We have an option on automatic transfer switches. I take it you all know what an automatic transfer switch is. Yeah. So it's just to be aware, we have a fully motorised changeover switch available as just a standard ATS, single line bypass or dual line bypass. We also have just released our compact range up to 125 amp, so it's a more cost-effective solution using the compact range should it be required. But any schools, high-rise buildings, anywhere with firefighting equipment or life safety equipment, generally will be an ATS with generate backup or dual supply, etc. But it's just something to be aware of that we offer, including overlapping neutrals. You can see there from 40 amp up to 630 amp. Go back one slide. And then up to 800 amp in the dual line. And that is it from me really in terms. Any questions? No? Well, that's it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.